Hello, everybody, and welcome to another KVHC Horn Camp Connect. My name is Joseph Johnson, and I have the pleasure of being one of the staff members here at KVHC. Today's session of the Horn Camp Connect will feature Radegundis Feitosa, who will present on the approach of fundamentals and applications of the horn in Brazilian music. Radegundis is joined today by Cormont Music Executive Director Peggy Moran. As always, before we jump into the session, just a couple of housekeeping items for those who are new, and a reminder for anybody who has joined us before. Throughout today's presentation, please be courteous of everybody else for them to hear what's going on, so please make sure you're muted, and stay muted for the duration of the sessions, unless the presenters ask you to unmute. If you click on participants at the bottom of the screen, you should see a participant list pop up with your name at the top. If the name associated with your Zoom account is different from your own name, please click on the blue More button next to your name and select Rename and enter your actual name. If you'd like to include your pronouns with your name, please do, highly encouraged. If you click on Chat at the bottom of the screen, you should see the chat box appear. Comments posted in the chat are affected by the drop-down menu above the text box. Depending on your selection, your comments may be viewed by anyone or by individual participants. Each time you enter a comment into the chat, please double check your selection so it's going to the right person, or if you'd like everybody to see. And with that, we'll hand the session off to Radegundis and Peggy.
Thank you, Joe, and welcome, Radegundis. We're so happy to have you here, and welcome everyone on this February morning. I know at KBHC we're we're big believers in fundamentals, so I'm especially excited to hear that part of your presentation as well as the second part as well. So welcome, and you can dive right in.
Thank you very much, Joseph, Peggy, and thanks to Bernard also for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here today. And okay, so I thought of talking about fundamentals and Brazilian music because these are two things that I've been working on a lot in recent years, researching about these aspects, these styles, this music, right? And yeah, so I think it's also fundamentals are the most important thing that we need to work on. And at least with many students I worked with throughout my career, and even with myself, if I don't really uh, make myself pay attention to that, it's very easy to find myself not doing what I need to do, to play well. So I think it's something that we need to really focus. Okay, so I thought of starting with the fundamentals and then go to Brazilian music. And if someone wants to play along some exercises that I will propose for us to do together to understand the concepts, please feel free to do it, to have your instrument with you, and I will be conducting this practice together. Okay, uh, so before, there are four basic resources that I like to use in general to learn how to use well air speed. But before I speak about these four resources, then I think it's important to explain in general how I think these fundamentals and how I think we can we should focus to have a good sound emission, and that's to focus on the quality of the vibration of the lips through air speed. And I don't do this naturally, so to speak. So for me to understand this concept made a lot of difference because when I was young, I was always thinking about quantity of air. And then for me, at least, and for many of my students and colleagues that I talked about, I understood that to focus on airspeed uh, would be something that should be more efficient. And also, before I talk about some of these terms, I think that it's also important to say that I don't know uh, how precise we are when we choose the terms. So, for example, I've been reading about this air compression, air pressure, and air speed. So these are related things, but they are not the same. And if you read the literature, there are different approaches to this and people that use these terms in a different way. So in general, I choose to use the term that I think that's easier to understand, easier to observe. Because if we can't think about all of these fundamentals when we are playing. I think that great objective we have is to automatize everything that we need to do. So yeah, the easier we understand, so the easier the terms represent what we want, the better. Then I focus on two things, uh, getting back to sound emission: air quantity and air speed. Air speed to manage the speed of the vibration of the lips that will result in lower notes or higher notes, and air quantity will influence, especially from my perspective, on dynamics. Of course, if we increase the quantity of air, depending on how the system is, we can increase air speed, but then too much details, I think. I think it's easier to think as I first explained. And then, as we won't be thinking about all of this when we play, I like to create triggers that will remind me what I need to do when I want to play something. So I won't think about the fundamental, but I will use a trigger that will help me do what I want to do. Okay, so starting now something more related to playing, and starting with the embouchure. For me, the simpler way to understand our embouchure is possibility is to use, a lollipop stick, very simple thing. And when we put, try to hold the lollipop stick with our lips, we basically place our embouchure. Of course, this is a very simple way to say. There are more things, but I think it's a great guide to understand. And as I'm going to focus on airspeed, it is very important that we keep, from my perspective, these muscles around the lips as firm, you know. Uh, of course, if we are doing we have some amount of tension, but I always like to avoid to use the word tension. And when we use firm, I think we can be more precise about it. But a very simple exercise that I do uh, to make these muscles a little bit more firm and strong is just holding the stick with my lips, and I blow, for example, for 20 beats like this. And then it goes until 20 beats, 24 beats. Very simple exercise. And I found out, even actually recently, especially when I need to play heavy concertos, very long concertos, that when I get tired, many times I start to lose this strength, let's say. And when I use the stick, it helps me to get back, well, to the strength that I need. So this is the trigger I use to keep my embouchure strong and focused as I need to play. Okay, that being said, so the first thing to vibrate the lips, I like again to use something that we usually do naturally as an example to turn the vibration that we need to play also more natural. So if we do That's something very simple. We don't think to do this. So that's what I think we need to seek when we practice, when we try to build these fundamentals and to create these triggers. So let's do a very simple exercise together. So try to unite this to a vibration more similar. Of course, it is different from what we do with the instrument, but it's similar. So I'll do first, and then you do. I'll breathe in and blow, vibrating my lips through 4 beats. So I accelerated from this to the vibration more similar to what we do with the instrument. So you now 3 and accelerate. Yeah. Yes. Very simple exercise for me. If I cannot, make a fluid vibration, if the vibration stops in the middle, it means that I have too much tension. So this exercise is also a trigger to avoid the excess of tension. And then I'll try to unite this now to the mouthpiece. So if you want to have your mouthpiece with you, okay. So I'll do first, then you do. So I'm trying again to create this trigger to turn our vibration with the mouthpiece as natural, as intuitive as possible. So now let's do together. Four beats, and then with the mouthpiece. Again, very simple, and in general I don't practice too much free buzzing or buzzing with the mouthpiece. I like to use this exercise as to prepare the muscles to play with the instrument, and I think that in the long term, doing these very simple things every day, we can build a solid embouchure and understand better the vibration and avoid extra tensions. Okay, so these are the basic concepts before we go to the instrument. If you have any questions, feel free to make. If you want to ask something, Peggy, also feel free. And then, yeah, okay.
I can, yeah, I'll jump in. I mean, I really appreciate the attention to the vocabulary. I just think that, when we're thinking about efficiency, there's so many words we throw out, and I really like how you're kind of, you're just identifying exactly what things are. Because yeah, I mean, so many students just think air, and they forget about this. So that's I'm really appreciating this and
Yeah.
feeling better just by doing that than what you just did. So I don't know if anyone, please feel free to put things in the chat if you have questions, and turn on your camera if you're doing it along with us too. So if you feel comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah, for us presenting, it's so much better when people open their cameras, at least for me. So if you want to open, feel free to do it. It's very welcome. Yeah. Uh, yes, and I think a very important thing when uh, to recognize, from my perspective, that there is some tension. It's impossible for us to play without tension. So, yeah, I think that we need
Tudo
to.
bem. Traduzir
Oops.
para qual?
Sorry, Siri was
Então eu não
activating.
farei.
Sorry. Okay. Yeah, I don't know why Siri decided to speak. Okay. So I think that it's important to recognize that there should be some tension. What we really want, from my perspective, is to learn how to deal with this tension, to manage this tension, to avoid uh, the excess of tension. Okay, so the basic four resources to manage the vibration through airspeed that I use are the openness of the throat and the oral cavity, the air support slightly using the abdominal muscles, the position of the tongue, and the position of the lips. So starting with the openness of the throat. Yeah, many of the exercises that we practice from many etude books and from many methods, I would say that they were made to activate us to do these things that I'm going to explain. But for me, nothing of this was natural to learn how to do it, even playing this exercise. For me, to know better about these fundamentals and the possibility to use them, because not everyone use these fundamentals, or at least consciousness, But for me to know about them made all the difference. So the openness of the throat and the oral cavity, a very, very simple way to open our throat is to breathe in without making any sound. So if we didn't make any sound, it means that the system is open. And then when we blow, we can try to keep the system open as it was when we breathed in. So again, very simple exercise. I will start with in middle F, and we can play B flat horn or F horn. I don't have low F horn here, so I'll play in B flat. Now you, so 3. And it is very important that you try to feel the system open. Many times I ask people, are you feeling it? The system open, and the person says, I don't know. Then you're probably not doing it, and it is very important that you have this consciousness, And throughout, the years, I noticed that, for example, if I need to walk like 5 or 10 minutes before I play, my tendency when I start to play is that I play much more tense and with the throat closed. So my sound changes, and we lose the quality of the sound, because to have the throat open and the oral cavity will help us, especially with the resonance. So that's why it's so important, and it can also affect intonation and, of course, the way of the air. If we have the sound of air coming out of the bell, usually it's because the system is closed and we have too much air speed that is not becoming, vibration. Okay, so continuing with this exercise to really notice the system opened. Now E flat to G, I'll do, then I'll guide you. One, A, 2, 3. C sharp to C natural. 1. B to B flat. always trying to breathe in without making any sound. Another way to notice the opens of the system is to speak in a pronounced way. So if we do ah, ah, our voice is projecting more because the system is open. So if we want to also use it as a trigger, we can do, for example, ah. And then if we want to practice that, we can do it before every phrase as some kind of exercise, you know. So these are the two triggers that I use today to feel if the throat and the oral cavity, if they are open. Yeah. Okay, the second fundamental is the air support with the use of abdominal muscles, and there are of course different approaches to this also, but for me personally it is essential to use the support in an intentional way. If I don't do it, my play in general is much different. So to use the support by contracting the abdominal muscles, it is essential that when we breathe in, that we release any tension that we may have in the system. So when I breathe in, I release the abdominal muscles and even put my belly a little bit forward, like putting it a little bit forward, so I give more space for the lungs to expand down. And this is essential. If I don't do that, if we don't do that when we use the support, the tendency is that we accumulate a lot of tension, and then it's better to not use it intentionally. But if we do it as a cycle, always breathing in, relaxing, releasing these abdominal muscles, so, and move the belly forward, and then when we blow, we can slightly contract these abdominal muscles. So that's how I use this fundamental. So to practice this, we can use another very simple exercise also now with bending. Okay, so you start again with F and just bend half tone down and get back like this. So I'm breathing in, blowing, slightly contracting the abdominal muscles, and keep them like this, contracting until the end of the sound. Okay, so you now, 3. Again, if you don't feel that you are using it, that's probably because you are not using it, and it's very important that you notice how it works and how it affects your sound. So I heard and talked a lot with a lot of people about this, and lots of people don't use this fundamental intentionally. They prefer like to do it in a more intuitive way, but again, for me it didn't work. And for everyone, I think that you should at least know that it is a possibility to use this in an intentional way. And from my perspective, the most important thing to use, and I suggest that it is used through all the registers, including the low register, for stability of the sound. Then for very high notes, of course, you can also use this to increase the compression, the pressure of the air, and then as a consequence, the speed of the air. Okay, let's do a little bit more. Now, doing the same sequence, E flat to G, I'll do and then you do. C sharp. Three. Now we can go up from G. Okay. A. So as higher as we go, the most difficult. It is more difficult to go higher, but yeah, try to keep the support working. On. Okay, so very simple exercises. Then by opening the throat and the oral cavity, we prepared the way of the air, so we have a free way for the air. With the support, we now have the compression for the stability of this blowing process, right? And then if we open the system, our tendency is to lose air pressure and air speed because we open everything. And then that's why the tongue, the position of the tongue is so important. In a very simple way, for low notes, we can use O, putting the tongue down and then having less pressure, less air speed. Or for high notes, we can have the tongue, the back of the tongue up, and very fast air speed, right? So in my approach, I like to call the basic position of the tongue, and that is I always try to play with the tip of the tongue down behind the teeth here and articulate with the back of the tongue. So the lower the note I'm going to play, the closer to the tip the point of articulation will be, the higher the note I play, more to the back of the tongue the point of articulation will be. So it sounds complicated, and of course, if someone decides to use these fundamentals, if not already using them, then I suggest that you practice one at a time, and try to automatize it. Again, we are not going to think about all of this when we play, right? But okay, position of the tongue. Very simple exercise, and we can use the singing, to understand better this position. So for example, we're going to start with F again. So you can sing before and try to simulate this position, a similar position when you play. So so try once singing first. One. Now playing. 3. So I'm starting without articulating and then articulating in the third beat to feel the position of the tongue. when I'm practicing, and this is pretty much the routine I do the most, I start all the exercises before this without using the tongue to articulate. I just start to articulate now, and this exercise it's meant also for that, to introduce this to my daily practice. Okay. So let's continue with this exercise. E flat, singing first. Oh, do. Now playing. 2, 3. Oh, do. On A. Oh, do. C sharp. 3, A. Yes. Another decision, let's say, that I made was to use only the D to articulate. So in general, I do not use T, because with the T, the tongue goes too much up, and I think it gets in the way of the air more than D. We can, if we need, do a very strong D, 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 and very soft D, D, D. So I think it is possible to play most of the articulations just using D. So to understand the position going up, we're going to play a G again, and now when we simulate, so first simulate, now playing, 2, 3. Very important to say that this is not exactly how the tongue will be inside the mouth when we play, but I use these syllables as a trigger, to motivate the tongue to go up or down depending on the register I'm going to play. So once again, with S now A. First simulating. Now playing. 2, 3. B. A. 1. Playing. 3. Yeah. Okay. And then we have the position of the tongue. Another very important thing from my perspective is to understand that it's not just about moving the tongue inside the mouth. It is very like, if we use an analogy, I don't know if you tried sometime, when you are in a car, to put your arm out and just, play with the air. And then there is a certain position that you place the hand that it seems that your hand is being sustained by the air. So it's like to give the pressure, I would say. I don't know how to say exactly in English, but that's what we look for with the tongue. So it needs to have pressure like tss, tss. And it's very important to be attentive also that we can do tss very high or tss lower. And the lower way, it's more similar, I think, to what we have when we play. So if you do it your tongues very too much up, it can be bad for the sound emission. Yeah, I think that to learn how to use this is the most complicated one, and I think that to simulate, to sing using the syllabus is an excellent way to practice. You know, so for example, if we want to play a scale, right, like so I could do before. As the S does not have a sound, if we use E, it also works, right? And then I try to play after sing, working the position of the tongue as I did when I sang. Yeah. So any questions about this? Any comments?
Well, I'll jump in. I mean, I think a lot of things really jump out at me, and it's just always exciting to hear someone talk about their take on fundamentals, just because, again, we've been doing this for a long time, but it always, brings up new ideas, which I love. I really like the idea of triggers, because I think, one of the things is, making sure that we're doing things in the kind of in the heat of performances. But then I wanted to kind of go, you were talking about different places like that you tongued like on your tongue. Is that what you're thinking? And I'd like to, if you could go more into that. I thought that was really interesting. And I,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
You
that I
mean
had.
so how I position the tongue?
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Okay, so I try to always place the tip down like this, you know, and then the back of the tongue is free to articulate and to move as we need. Because I used to articulate a lot with the tip of the tongue. This was very difficult for me to change. You know, not difficult, but it took time. And but I noticed that the tongue tended to be in the way of the air.
Mhm.
So to articulate well, very low notes or very high notes, it was not working so well,
Uh,
you know. And by keeping the tip uh, down and articulate with the back, especially for high notes, if you try to articulate, you know, more to the back of the tongue, then it already stays up and help the notes to be played, you
yeah.
know, the sound
Mhm.
emission in high notes. So, yeah, you know, an interesting comment also about this is that I started teaching here at the university in Brazil, in Natal, Brazil. I recorded my first two CDs without basically knowing nothing about this that I'm talking about today, you know. So, you know, Fred Mills used to say that he just thinks about breathing well and blow, you know, blow well. So, for me, it was always, I would say, much more difficult than today. I depended a lot on how my muscles were, you know. And now with this consciousness, I think that the results are much more stable, you know, of my playing in general. So I depend much less if my lips are okay,
Yeah.
you know. Yeah. And particularly this thing about the position of the tongue, as I explained, helped me a lot to have better control and to play light in the high and in the low
Mhm.
register. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think, it is one of those things where you were talking about efficiency, and I think you're right. Like, we start to do it and we just kind of, play how it works for us. And then as we teach and as we kind of, um, kind of, get older and wiser, we start figuring stuff out. And I think that's a really brilliant idea. And I think one of the things with tonguing is that, since we can't see it, it's always kind of, what are we really doing? And so, I was just thinking like, wow, like I had never thought about that. And then I just tongue and I was like, oh, of course, you can feel that it's you aren't just really when you're playing. So yeah, so I think it's a really brilliant idea, and something to dig even more into. So yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah. And you know, I always talk to my students. in a way that it also helps me. That's to know how to do the thing, even if you don't still manage to do it, to actually do it, but you know how to. You know
Mhm.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Because so what do we need to play high notes? We need airspeed and the lips vibrating fast. That's it. So if you know that, how can we vibrate the lips faster? So this very simple concept never came to me when I was a student,
Mhm.
and it
Right.
made a lot of difference when I started to playing like this, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it looks like we have a question in the chat that says, other than thinking about the tip of the tongue down, how do you reinforce it? So I wonder if that's
Yeah. So again, there's this term that I think I first read in some works about Arnold Jacobs' pedagogy. That is the paralysis by analysis. Have you heard about this?
yes.
Yeah.
I'm
So,
familiar.
yeah. So I think what I do is to try to do as I'm explaining, but I
Mhm.
try to not overthink it, because it's very easy for us to be like stuck trying to
Mhm.
do it. So try to put it down like this, and then articulate with the back, and that's it. As simpler as possible, and with very simple exercises like what we are doing here. If you try to do with the music that I'm going to play later, it's going to be much more difficult, and you're probably not going to manage to do it, right? Yeah.
Well, and I think that's again, what we're always trying to do in our fundamentals, and I like how you've really set up kind of the three kind of the kind of
Yeah.
triggers to get there is right, so that we work on it in a simple way, so that then in the more difficult things we don't have to think about it. So,
Yeah.
well, it
Yeah.
sounds like we might be ready to dive into some music then.
Yeah. Okay.
Actually, I have a question. One more question, if you don't mind. It's Michael.
Hi, Michael.
This is hello everyone. This is great. I'm still confused about the tonguing a little bit. In that when I go low, the tip of my tongue heads down to my teeth, my teeth, and when I go high, it tends to go up behind the teeth. But I'm getting the idea, and I was just trying it, that you're saying, don't think about that. Think about where you're really tonguing, and as you go high, you actually find that you're tonguing higher on the tongue. That's what I was getting. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. So it's like
So
if yeah.
so it might be that the tip of your tongue is still down around your teeth, but actually the air is stopping higher on the tongue.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. If we do, articulate from low to high notes, it would be like yeah, a very simple example. If we do the tip of the tongue is down when we do that. So it's the same. It's very not exactly the same, but similar. Yeah.
Great. Good. This will be some fun experimenting.
Yeah. Great. Okay, and very quick before I go to the music, Peggy, the fourth fundamental is the position of the lips. Very quick.
Sorry, forgot the fourth one. Yes, of course. Sorry.
Yeah.
I said three and I thought, wait, I thought there were four. So absolutely no worry about being quick. Let's do
Okay.
this one.
And very simple exercise in B flat horn. So from C sharp, we can do like. Okay, so I need to explain what it is. So, position of the lips. Then we can help the lips to vibrate faster or slower with this movement of rolling in a little bit as we go higher, but it's something very, it's a slight movement, very subtle. And then rolling out as we go down. this concept is very associated to the openness of the lip. So when we say close a little bit to go high and open a little bit to go down, I prefer to not use to open the lips because in general I saw that people tend to exaggerate in the movement. So if I say close a little bit to go high, the tendency is that the person closes too much, and the opposite for low notes. With the rolling in and rolling out concept, I think it happens to close to high notes and to open to low notes, but it's a more precise movement, I think. Can try this with flexibility exercises. Very simple one. Okay, let's do this together and try to feel this very slight movement. One. Yeah. With from D. Three and yeah. So practicing this, I think that besides open more or close more the lips, we also, when we roll in, we give a little bit more tension that helps the lips to vibrate faster and then to play higher notes. So this is the simpler one, I think, and it tends to happen more natural, in a more natural way, I would say. Okay, so this is what I use in general of the main fundamentals. If you have any more questions, then I'm happy to answer. Yeah.
Yes, and please chime in like Michael did or write in the chat. I just, again, spending so much time working on these ideas and working with my students, it's just I'm really appreciating the things that you're saying, because I feel like the rolling in and rolling out, a lot of times I see students where they're, like you said, we all kind of overdo things, and so they're kind of, their apertures spread too much, and so they're inefficient that way. And right, I think they're thinking, oh, it has to be bigger, but the rolling in and rolling out, I think, is a great way of, as you said, accomplishing what we want, and again, being specific with language, like you said, with vocabulary. So yeah, that's excellent. And again, please, I take as much time as you want on this section.
No, it's okay. The time is what I program.
Perfect.
Okay, so going to the music, because that's our goal, right? To play music, not to be specialists in technique things, right? And then I will talk about some characteristics, some aspects, features of Brazilian music, and I will share the screen, and I will play as I explain what I want to explain. Okay. Okay. So I will focus today in two different Brazilian music styles. One is called choro, and you probably heard, I don't know, before Tico Tico no Fubá, it's very famous. I'm going to play a little bit. And in this music, I'm going to focus in two aspects, the syncopes and the accents. So okay, so first thing about Brazilian music, if you see the music here, is that I'm not playing exactly as it is written, and that's something that happens in Brazilian music because it is even expected, I would say, that you be free to change some rhythms, especially if it is to give more movement to the music. And sometimes, let's say, to value more the upbeats, give this movement sensation. So, for example, here, the first main change that I played is dee da dee da dum dee instead of dee da dee da da dee, right? And with this syncope, we give this swing, let's say swing sound, and by accenting the strong beats next, we give the movement. So it sounds. Yeah, and then this is very important to Brazilian music. Okay, so syncopes. How to play syncopes in Brazilian music or in popular music even in general. Of course, there are specific styles, but in general, the most important thing is to play the middle note as short as possible. So if you playing like I'm doing, so I'm doing. This is actually an eighth note, di da di da da da, but I'm playing shorter so we don't get behind. And many times when we are going to read this kind of music, to learn it for the first time, we tend to do. And when we do that, our tendency is to be behind. If we go to the second part, and another thing, you are seeing that I'm not reading as it is written, because that's another thing that it's very common in Brazilian music. Everything it's written in C, so like for the piano to read as it is, and then we need to transpose, and yeah. So I myself still, I'm even playing after so many years this repertoire, I still don't have it transcribed. That's my fault. I should have it transcribed. I'm about to record now this music that I'm going to play for you, so I will probably have it transcribed sometime. Yeah. So the second part. Yeah, I need to practice a little bit more, but yeah. So then it comes the second aspect of that I would like to talk about in this music, the accents. We play almost as if we wanted to hide the other notes. So da 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 din da 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 din da 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 din da 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 din da 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 din da da din da din da da din. Many arrangements for ensembles, they kind of joke with this, just having the accented notes played, and it sounds as if the music was as a whole there because we have it in our ears, right, in our mind. So yeah, and we also have this syncope aspect of the music with these upbeats accents. So we have this feeling that we also have syncopes, although we don't. Yeah. And then the third part. Yeah, and here we also continue to, let's say, joke with this rhythm balances and these accents. Okay. Any questions? Okay.
I wouldn't mind getting, is there a way that we could perhaps share a link to where your CDs are, and is there a way for maybe people who could find this music? I don't know if
Yeah,
there's
I'm about to record this
uh,
in March, I think, and it should be released, I don't know, before June or July, and it's going to be on platform streams. But
great.
my other CDs,
Uh-huh.
they are not available anymore because I don't know if how we call it in English. It's the physical CD.
Yeah.
They are sold out,
Uh-huh.
and then I also made a reflection about this, and I think they don't represent my playing anymore.
Yeah.
So I
No, I
moved them
understand.
out of the platform, the streaming
Yeah.
platforms,
Yeah.
you know. And then, yeah, I'm very
Yeah.
excited about this new project.
That's great. No, that's great. I mean, I'm just thinking, I think um I feel like when I work with students on things like jazz, right? It's this different idiom that maybe horn players aren't as familiar with. Although I do have this feeling of like, well, we're not familiar with it because um we're told we can't play it. And so so I just think it's always great to kind of, you know, have access to this music. And so I guess, but that's exciting. We'll really look forward to your release then.
Yeah, for the music specifically, the sheet music, we have these songbooks of Brazilian music. I
Yeah.
think they are people sell them worldwide. If you go to Google, and put the music like Tico Tico and songbook,
Uh-huh.
probably you're going to have a songbook of this composer here,
Okay.
Zequinha de Abreu. It's very easy to find the music as it is here, right?
Right.
Not wrote for the horn,
Right. Yeah.
specifically.
Yeah. But
But
that's great. Yeah, that's great. Again, you were saying, you're transposing it, and I feel like again sometimes I have to explain to students why we have to learn how to transpose, and it's like, yeah, there's, they say, and so it's nice to say like, look, this is why you have to transpose. Look up tunes and play them. So
exactly,
yeah, I like it.
exactly. For us, we need to transpose. There is no other.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so I use Tico to speak about syncopes and accents, and I will open now another very famous one, Brasileirinho, that is, and I would like to use it to talk about articulation. So as you can see here, and as we could see in Tico Tico, for the songbook parts, it's very common to have no dynamics written, very few articulation details. And then that's why it's so important that we hear this kind of music played by people that are specialized playing them, this kind of these styles, so we can learn, so we can create from this experience, from this reference, how we want to play, because it can be played in many different ways. So I'm playing how, let's say, how I feel today, and we have this freedom in Brazilian music, but you know, it's not from nothing. That's very important. It's from an experience, from hearing a lot, and through playing it a lot. We have in Brazil to play choro, especially what can be called a choro table. So people get around the table and start to play choro together with any instrument, basically. Uh, and then from this experience, you build this reference. It's very interesting to say that when I was doing my master degree, I was researching about how to do the trios, for classical music. And when I read the treatises from the time, they are not in agreement of things. They say different things. And you can even find some people from Mozart time saying that when they recommend something, they complement by saying, yes, but it was up to the musician to choose the best way to do it. So there is no, in my opinion, absolute rule, you know, but to have this background, to know these things from the time, or in the case of Brazilian music, to understand better from people that play it, in the spaces that it naturally happen. I think it makes all the difference for us to develop our interpretation and to choose articulations, for example. Yeah, and if we I'll play from here, you know, and the most important aspect of the articulation is to play it light. We need definition, but to play it light. So I can play everything without any tie, you know. The most important to still keep it light. If I add the ties, I think it can be even lighter. It sounds better. But again, the other way was not wrong, and depending on the instrument that is playing or on the player, even other horn player playing this, and it's not common in Brazil for horn players to play this also, but yeah, even another horn player, he or she can fuse different and play a different articulation. Yeah. And then also in the second part, an interesting rhythm aspect. So it is written, and I did. This is also very common in Brazilian music, to move a little bit, to play a little bit late or a little bit earlier, but as we say here, the basses, the drum set, the bass, the guitar, they will keep the tempo. And also this difference makes the rhythm sounds a little bit more with more swing, in a more dancing sound. So it's another feature, another important aspect of choro of Brazilian music. Okay, any questions about this one?
I was just going to add, so you mentioned the kind of rhythm section. Are these usually played with a rhythm section? Are there usually lots of, I mean, you kind of said a lot of times it's just kind of a lot of instruments. Is this is that the usual group, and is that the group that's going to be on your recording?
Yeah, this CD that I'm going to record is just horn and piano, but the pianist is an specialist, so he does a lot of the rhythms that sounds like, if there was a rhythm section.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, in general, yeah, Brazilian music, choro, frevo, the other style that I'm going to play in a few moments, always with a rhythm section. It's very common, and it's like it's almost kind of the soul of the music. It makes a lot of difference, and many of these accents and articulations usually are chosen to be aligned with what the rhythm section is doing. To learn Brazilian music or even popular music in general, it is it helps a lot if the person knows some percussion instrument and know to play. Even the simpler percussion instrument can help with the rhythm and to feel the yeah, how to
Yeah.
play. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And just wanted to mention there was a question in the chat about getting the music, and Joe has been, I think Joe has found a link to share with you, and maybe Radegundis, you can check at some point if it's a good link for people to look up some Brazilian songbooks.
Okay.
If people are interested, but yeah, great.
I'll check. Okay, so yeah, then this is it for Brasileirinho. Okay. So the other music is called Naquele Tempo in Portuguese, and in English is something like from that time, you know, from old times or something like that. And this is Pixinguinha and Benedito Lacerda. They're like probably two of the most famous Brazilian choro composers. Pixinguinha was a saxophone player. I think he also played the flute. Yeah, and he's like our Louis Armstrong, you know, for the choro uh, style from a similar period. Even he lived as Louis Armstrong. Okay, so here is a more cantabile choro, but still, and what I want to highlight from this one is the freedom of the rhythm to express, so people can play this in very different ways. So you can notice that again, I'm not following the rhythms exactly as they are written, and if I play this again, I might not even play the same way I just did, you know, and that's again a freedom that is even expected in this kind of styles. And I think that the learning of popular music in general, to start, I don't even like to say popular music, you know, because it might be understood as I don't know, uh, not in a good way, but yeah, I think that to learn popular music, as we call, it can be a great thing to help us playing better any other style of music, like classical repertoire, romantic repertoire. We tend to be too tight, you know, playing this music, and when we hear people that are specialized in playing classical music or baroque music or romantic music, they in general express themselves a lot and respecting the style. That's what I think we need to seek for, and not to play, you know, almost without emotion sometimes. And we can hear that sometimes, unfortunately, in classical music, especially. I think we should go against this. Feel free to express, respecting the style, but expressing music. So yeah, that's why I think it's so important to learn this kind of music. Yeah, so this is the second part. Yeah, and again, this freedom is present, I think, all over the piece. Yeah.
It's really beautiful. I mean, and I agree with you, you know, music is music, right?
Yeah.
And you know, to kind of, but also again, the freedom, a lot of times we don't feel the freedom to express ourselves, and to have something that specifically says, yes, you're free on this, and then maybe we can bring that to that music that we feel like maybe we can't, but all of a sudden we can express more. So yeah, this is great. Joe did put in a link, so I don't know if you want to check on that and see if that's a good place for people to look up some tunes.
Yeah, let me check now so I don't. Yeah.
Not to interrupt the beautiful playing, it's really wonderful.
No, no. Yeah, but it's good that we do it now. So yeah, exactly. So I'll share my screen so people can see. Yeah. So for example, this one, but it's in Portuguese. I don't know if this site has an English version. But all these people here that's been shown in these songbooks, they are very famous choro composers, samba composers. So I can assure that each of these books are very nice, very nice. For example, this, yeah, the last one from Pichinguinha, that they have this the solo part, and then some I don't know how it's called in English, counterpoint. Do you call like this, like bar thing?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
So they have the solo and the counterpoint.
Oh,
You
nice.
know, so it's very nice to play like duets. Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's music. Sometimes we don't feel very much comfortable, playing coppers, for example, to other
Right, right,
people, exercise, right, or maximal phones.
right, right.
But then with this, it is like an etude, but it's music, so you can play for people. I think it's very nice also to have this possibility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's great because I do feel like a lot of times people want to play different styles of music but have trouble kind of bridging that gap, right? Well, how do I go from Copart to that? So yeah, something like this is exciting. So great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Joe, for finding that one. It's a great
Yeah,
link.
thank you. Okay. So, uh, now we go to Frevo. So Frevo is also very popular in all over Brazil, but especially where I live, in the region where I live, the northeast. And it's really played during Carnival, and Carnival was like this last week in Brazil. It's the most important party, I think, in Brazil. Yeah, and I separated two Frevos. Again, these ones I wrote. I put it on finale just for this occasion because I couldn't find a score. I'm playing by heart for so many years that I
Oh my
couldn't find the music.
God.
Yeah, and here is just a proposal of articulation if you wanted to write, to have it written in the music. Yeah. So in general, it's faster. It's a fast kind of music. Yeah. And so it goes on. But even this is very common to be played on the streets, like what you have in New Orleans, for people playing jazz I think at Carnival also, right? At Carnival times, I don't know. But yeah, in Brazil it's very common to see these frevo orchestras. It's basically an ensemble with brass, without no horn, but brass, saxophone, and rhythm section. And they go through the streets playing this. But even there, they can play with very different articulations, So they can also play. More flat, so it depends on the group. And sometimes if they are kind of marching, walking, where when they are playing, they can change the articulation because of that too. So, and sometimes it get in the sound. Yeah. And the second part. So again, we have the same freedom in rhythm, and usually when we play with an ensemble, people talk about it to do it together. But sometimes it just come out when people are playing, and they manage to play together. Sometimes it's a thing of feeling, I would say. Yeah. Okay, so
Just so you know, I think as a sign of success, I just got a message from someone who said that their wife is dancing to the music. So I think that's a
good. Yeah, in general, Brazilian music is a very dancing
yeah.
music. Yet,
And that's when you also need to have the screen on, just so you know. Like we want to see the dancing.
yeah, exactly. Okay, and the last one is another frevo that we will use. It's called frevo sanfonado in Portuguese. It's like accordion frevo, and it was composed by a great accordion player. He's called Sivuca. I think he lived for many years in New York, in Switzerland. He was very famous. I think one of the greatest accordion players. And yeah, he composed this frevo. All this music that I'm playing, in general, the music was not meant specifically for any instrument. Sometimes, for example, with the Pichinguinha music, as he was a saxophone, a flute player, he used the saxophone or the flute register, but people play it in any instrument. Still not common on the horn, but when we play for people that play shore, it's like, hey, come on and let's do it together, and that's it. Yeah. And so I like to use this framework to talk about developing the reflex, because it's fast. And then uh, something that I like to say when people want to play fast things, especially on the horn, because in general we are not used to that, is that of course you need to practice slow, but to really develop the reflex, just playing fast. So we need to, increase the speed slowly, but at some point in our practice throughout the weeks, I think we can start to try in tempo, even if it's not really working well, but to try 1 or 2 times, one day and then 2 days practicing slow, and the third day again fast, just to stimulate the body to the mind to have the reflex. So, so this is also a difficult one, and yeah, to develop the reflex to play this, we need to play in tempo. Study, practice slow, and then tempo, slow tempo, and this method, can help us to learn this. Okay, so
That was fantastic. That was really, really fun to hear. And I like that idea of, a lot of times we or our students, okay, yes, click it up little by little, and that's a great thing. But yeah, just like you said, getting used to that feeling. I feel like that's another kind of trigger that you were talking about. Like, okay, let's let's just jump into the fast playing. So.
I think in a balanced way, it can bring nice results. Of course, we're not going to keep trying playing fast if we're not
Right.
ready. but to try once or twice, yeah, every 3 or 4 days. And even for resistance or stamina, the same way. You know, I'm not a fan, a supporter of practicing, for example, for a recital, playing the whole recital every day. You know, I prefer to think of building the strength to have a peak performance in 1 or 2 or 3 days, depending on what we need.
Right.
And that's the same thing, you know, the very similar thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So do we have questions? Well, I really appreciate, just the connection of the fundamentals that you started with, then kind of manifesting in the music. I mean, it's just, yeah, it's fantastic to hear you play, and I really enjoy the ideas that you brought up.
Yeah, and you know what I practice every day is these fundamentals. And then, uh, it it is so much easier to play the music if I things are in place. You know, I wouldn't be playing this if I didn't have the fundamentals very solid. Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
It'd be really fun to have a horn player's Brazilian songbook for those of us not there. You might consider putting one
Yes.
together.
Yes, that's the goal. One day maybe.
Wonderful.
Okay, well, thank you everybody for joining today. Ooh, I don't know what just happened to my computer here. Thank you for joining. Hope you all enjoyed. Big thank you to Radegundis, of course, and of course Peggy. Big round of applause, even though we can't hear, but I'll do it for you. Thank you so much. So we are so happy you all joined us today for today's Horn Camp Connect. Please be on the lookout for next Horn Camp, the next Horn Camp Connect featuring the faculty members Nikki Labonte and Stacia Sienna. They will be doing another Horn Camp Connect, wow, on March 1st. For the one that we just did today, it is being recorded, so it should be available tomorrow on our YouTube channel. And you're more than welcome to share that and rewatch it if there's anything you want to see again, miss, you want to hear Radegundis phenomenal playing again. And with that, I believe that is the end of the session here. And Peggy, if you have any announcements or anything else you want to say.
Yes, of course. As the executive director of Cormont, I want to remind everyone that registration for KBHC 2024 is open. Our scholarship deadline is March 1st. So if you're interested in attending but are worried about being able to afford it, please look at the scholarship application. It's pretty straightforward, and we really want to support anyone we can. And certainly if you are interested in donating to support our funding of scholarships, we also appreciate that. www.horncamp.org. Really thrilled for everyone to be here. Thank you so much, Radegundis. It was just such a pleasure and such a wonderful class. And yes, we look forward to that recording that's coming out. So, and
Thank you very much.
as always, please send us any comments or questions you have, or if you have questions for Radegundis, my email is peggy@horncamp.org. Hope everyone has a wonderful weekend. Oh, there's a question about what date the next Connect is. Oh, there we go. It's being answered, March 1st.